So this is going to be one of the videos that I would say is arguably one of the most important videos that you should watch on this channel, because whilst creating the resources for this video and looking through certain things, I realized that Bill Gates' predictions for 2024 about AI agents and the future are truly remarkable. And a lot of the things that he does talk about, I really didn't think about before. So I'm going to go through around 10 or so different points about AI agents in 2024 and beyond, and exactly what Bill Gates has said, and exactly how they're going to change our future. Because trust me, there are some really important predictions that I think you'll want to understand. One of the first things that he talks about, okay, is the fact that you need to pay attention. Now, of course, this isn't something that directly applies to you as much, because you're someone that currently, testing 1 2, is actually on the AI side of the internet, which means you're engaging in artificial intelligence content, you're watching it, you're consuming it, and you're likely realizing the monumental change that is coming. Now, other people have, but not many people have. You can see the Bill Gates here says the early days of a new age are often marked by lots of changes. If you're old enough to remember, think back to the beginning of the internet. At first, you probably didn't know many people who were using it, but it became more common over time until one day you realized most people had email addresses, bought things online, and used search engines to answer their questions. So it's definitely something that you should pay attention to, because of course it is something that is really important, not to just dig your head in the sand. And essentially, when I say dig your head in the sand, it just means pluck your head into the clouds and just say, you know what, nothing's happening. When AI is here, it's here to stay, and it is a remarkable piece of technology. Bill Gates also says that we are just at the beginning of this transition right now. He says this is an exciting and confusing time, and if you haven't figured out how to make the best use of AI yet, you are not alone. I thought I would use AI tools for the foundation strategy reviews this year, which require reading hundreds of pages of briefing materials that an AI could accurately summarize for me, but old habits are hard to break, and I ended up preparing them the same way I always do. So he's basically talking about how the fact that these AI systems can be used to summarize, long documents, things like Claude, things like ChatGPT can of course do that. But of course, he's talking about, just doing things the old way. Like with this channel, for example, you could have an AI voice, you could have an AI script, but of course, I do also prefer to do things the old way. Will that change in the future for other industries and other people? That is, of course, something we're going to be talking about later on in the video. But the point he's trying to make here is that we are at that transition period where things are about to change, and we're about to see that rapid super takeoff, like a plane just taking off in the sky. The plane is slowly taking off, and then of course we're nowhere near the summit yet. So one of the things he does talk about, and this was something that recently we did get, and this is not one of the crazier things. I mean, it's actually kind of crazy, but it's not one of the crazier things that I didn't look at. It's about the fact that AI is about to supercharge the innovation pipeline. So he says here that my work has always been rooted in a core idea: innovation is the key to progress. It's why I started Microsoft, and it's why Melinda and I started the Gates Foundation more than 2 decades ago. Innovation is the reason our lives have improved so much over the last century. From electricity and cars to medicine and planes, innovation has made the world much better. Today we are far more productive because of the IT revolution, and the most successful economies are driven by innovative industries that evolved to meet the needs of the changing world. What he's basically saying here is that AI is about to, not only just give us more productivity boost, it's going to give us like a supercharged innovation pipeline in terms of ideas, in terms of research, in terms of literally everything. Now, the first thing that he actually does talk about was the fact that vaccine innovation actually did help cut childhood deaths in half. So you can see right here that we have, the children death every year, and you can see it was at 10 million. Now it's at around 5 million, which of course you can see the new vaccines, new delivery mechanisms, new ways to make vaccines. With AI, I think yesterday there was a research paper where they actually used AI once again to find a solution for a antibiotic resistant strain of bacteria that was killing around 10,000 people a year. They found AI to be able to, find the cure for that. So like I said, if we can get a situation where we do have, new vaccines, new delivery mechanisms, new ways to make vaccines consistently done with AI, with deep learning, with, just all different sorts of AI, it's definitely going to advance things on a ridiculous level. So you can see right here was that he was talking about one of the biggest impacts so far is on creating new medicines. Drug discovery requires combining through massive amounts of data, and AI tools can speed up that process significantly. Some companies are already working on cancer drugs developed this way, but a key priority of the Gates Foundation in AI is ensuring also all of these, tools address the health issues that disproportionately affect the world's poorest regions. So basically, like, companies are trying to focus on a lot of the, disproportionately poor countries, these less economically developed countries. They don't necessarily have the infrastructure and the teams to be able to research, all this stuff. So we want to make sure that we can speed up the process so that we can focus on the health concerns that are, struggling in those countries rather than the ones that are struggling here, like AIDS, TB, and malaria, because these are the ones some of the poorest countries do suffer from. So, of course, AI innovation is going to speed up that massively, which globally is definitely going to impact us a lot. Now, there was another crazy thing here, and I'm surprised. Like, I really missed this document because I'm usually on the A game for completely anything that is AI related. But of course, as always, some things are going to miss you. But this is where he makes a startling prediction. He said, if I had to make a prediction in high income countries like the United States, I would guess that we are 18 to 24 months away from significant levels of AI use by the general population. In African countries, I expect to see a comparable level of use in 3 years or so. And that's still a gap, but it's much shorter than the lag times we've seen in other innovations. So, for example, I'm guessing this is like, the internet. It's like the birth of the internet, where, of course, the internet took off, and of course, lots of people were using it. But the thing is with the internet is that it wasn't expensive. It's just that, of course, it's kind of like a slow rollout because, you need to put the cables up. Of course, computers were kind of expensive. Not everyone could really afford one. But 18 to 24 months away, is just like 2 years away, okay? And that we all know that time does fly by. Like, you'll blink and it's a year. Like right now, it's about to be the end of 2024, and I'm sure for a lot of people that this year did go by quickly. And as you get older, this continues to happen. So, I mean, in the next 2 years, high levels of AI use by the general population is not going to be surprised. And the thing is, you might be thinking, I don't use AI. I'm not going to use AI at all. Remember, a lot of AI even powers the system that you use without you knowing. For example, if you use any social media, behind the scenes, that is AI powering the system, which all these recommendation algorithms are AI driven. It's not like a person. Like, you remember, even though you do follow some people on social media, largely what you do consume is, on the homepage, and that is a browse section, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Twitter/x.com, or even YouTube. It's usually the recommended, when you go on your homepage, that's usually what people do want to watch. So this is where he does delve further, and he does say that AI is about to change how you use computers completely. And of course, like I said before, this is just a prediction, but I do think that this is a pretty accurate prediction because, like I said before, I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this stuff. I mean, I did talk about it a little bit in the 2024 AI video, but this just dives into things a lot more further, and it does explain things a lot more in greater detail. So one thing that he does say here is, and this pretty much explains how we use computers now. You have to tell your device which app to use. You can use Microsoft Word, Google Docs to draft a business proposal, but they can't help you send an email, share a selfie, analyze data, schedule a party, or buy movie tickets. And even the best sites have an incomplete understanding of your work, your personal life, interests, and relationships, and a limited ability to use this information to do things for you. That's the kind of thing that's only possible today with another human being, like a close friend or personal assistant. However, in the next 5 years, so after these 2 year period where everyone's using AI, in 5 years, we're going to have these AI agents that where, you won't have to use different apps for different tasks. You're simply going to tell your device, so basically Siri on steroids, in everyday language, what we want to do. And depending on how much information we choose to share with it, the software will be able to respond personally because it's going to have a rich understanding of your life. And this is true because think about it like this. We're all going to have PAs. Pi, their Inflection 2 model is going to be, I think, even bigger than GPT-4, allegedly. Now, of course, that's allegedly. We don't know that yet until, I mean, I'm talking about like, future versions of it, because Inflection 2, although it is good, I haven't really seen that many people using it, and I'm not sure which devices it is on. But the point of the matter is that this is going to change our interaction with technology, because if you can just simply, say to your computer, okay, I need to make a video on this. Can you go on this article, grab me these links? Can you put it into a document and then do this? Can you add this music? Da, 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 da. Like, that is a complete change from like, using your keyboard and mouse and then, scrolling around, and even on your phone, you want to wake up on your phone, you wake up, you want to set an alarm. Siri can do some things, but imagine a Siri that was 100% accurate, knew about your life, knew about, all the things that you needed to do. It would be really, really effective. So he talks here about agents are not only going to change how everyone interacts with computers, they're going to upend the software industry, bringing about the biggest revolution in computing since he went from typing command to tapping on icons. So, of course, this is something, that he talked about in his book, which is called The Road Ahead. It's a book that he wrote in 1995, and he actually talked about agents for nearly 30 years, and he talked about basically only now, some of his ideas this are probably going to be a reality due to the advances of AI. So one of the AI agents that he does talk about, and for those of you who are, I wouldn't say old, but for those of you who do remember, Clippy was like a digital assistant, but he was like one of the first notorious digital assistants that I don't think he was that great, but he also wasn't awful, but he was like a Microsoft Office like kind of gimmick. So like he says here, some people have pointed out that software companies have offered this kind of thing before, and users didn't exactly embrace them. So people make jokes about Clippy, but why would people use agents if people haven't used them before? But this is the thing. They're going to be dramatically better. You'll be able to have nuanced conversations with them, and they're going to be much more personalized, and they won't be limited to relatively simple tasks like writing a letter. And Clippy basically has much more in common with an agent's rotary phone than it has with a mobile device. So basically what he's saying here is that Clippy was just, because people are like, oh, what if people didn't use Clippy, why are they going to use agents? It's like, this level of technology is completely different. And I've actually used ChatGPT with voice, and it is really good. So if you haven't used ChatGPT with voice before, I would suggest, if you're going on a drive and you want to talk to ChatGPT, brainstorm ideas, that is definitely something that's really good. Maybe you're cooking, maybe you want to brainstorm ideas and just ask it about certain things. It's having that kind of conversation is really interesting. Like, I was surprised how good it is. The only thing that I would say that isn't that good is the fact that there are delays with ChatGPT when you're having a conversation with it. So it doesn't make it as realistic. A normal person would respond instantly. But like I said, latency issues are being solved. We are getting local models that are much more smaller, much more efficient, and much more effective at performing these kind of tasks. Because right now GPT-4 is definitely running on some kind of huge server where they definitely do want to service everyone. So they do have an issue with like dishing out every single request, which is why they have those limitations where you can only send like 40 messages every 3 hours or so. So they talk about how the fact that Clippy is different and it's not an actual agent. So it says, to see the dramatic change that agents will bring, let's compare them to the AI tools available today. So most of these are bots. They're limited to one app and generally only step in when you write a particular word or ask for help, because they don't remember how you use them from time to the next. They don't get better or learn any of your preferences. And this was what Clippy was. So agents are going to be proactive, capable of making suggestions before you ask for them. They accomplish tasks across multiple applications, and they improve over time because they remember your activities, recognize intent and patterns in your behavior. And based on this information, they are able to provide you on what you think you need and always help you make final decisions. And, it's going to be a revolution, because although people can have personal assistants now, everyone having one is a level playing field, which means that everyone becomes more productive. So also as well, we did see something like this, because if you did watch yesterday's video where we talked about Project Sunshine, ChatGPT's secret upgrade, the next feature that we know is going to be coming, it wasn't leaked stuff, it was stuff that's in the source code, like in the JavaScript on the website, stuff that you can find yourself. There's stuff about how they're going to memorize certain chats, improve over time. So like I said, and this was written in November, so we do know that stuff is definitely going to be there, and it's only a matter of how long before it's here. So he talks about this example. So for example, imagine you want to plan a trip. A travel bot will identify hotels that fit your budget. An agent will know what time of year you'll be traveling, and based on its knowledge about whether you'll try a new destination, it will be able to suggest locations. Then of course, it's going to be able to recommend things based on your interests and your propensity for adventure. And it's going to be able to book restaurants and reservations of the type of restaurants you'd enjoy. So it's like deeply specialized, personalized planning. Of course, a PA can do this, but imagine just asking a bot to plan out a holiday that already knows your interest. It already knows what you want. It already knows where you want to go. It already knows the kind of things you like. It already knows, everything about you. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting because it's going to change other things. So, although AI agents are going to change us, if they change us, they definitely change other things, because they change the way we interact with technology, and that then in turn changes the way how we interact with businesses. And of course, that means businesses are forced to adapt and change, which means the whole like economy and certain things are going to be changing, which is why I said this is super interesting, because there were certain things that I didn't really think about as deeply, but this video shows that AI agents are going to be bigger than you think if they are accurate, which I think in 5 years definitely they will be 100%. And I think just the speed, like I've been reading some research papers, just the speed at which things are going, it's absolutely crazy. So this is where we have healthcare. And then he says, today's AI's main role of healthcare is to help with administrative tasks. So these are just boring tasks. So he talks about these apps here. It can capture audio during an appointment and then write up notes for the doctor to review. And then he talks about how the real shift is going to come when agents can help patients do basic triage, get advice about how to deal with health problems, and decide whether they need to seek treatments. These agents will also help healthcare workers make better decisions and be more productive. And helping patients and healthcare workers will be especially beneficial for people in poorer countries where many never get to see a doctor at all. So not only is this really good, this is like just a broader, better healthcare for everyone. Because I mean, I don't know how many people are in the United Kingdom or in the United States, but I know that in the United States, if you don't have, health insurance, sometimes certain things, can become bigger problems than if you just went to see a doctor. And also, I know that in the United Kingdom, the GP system isn't very good. Unless you're in private healthcare, it takes up to 2 weeks to see a doctor, which isn't good. And of course, if you have a personalized AI system, for example, something that's cheaply run on device, I'm pretty sure that these systems are going to be much more effective than just simply, just waiting around wondering exactly what it is, or having a person, nervously, just scroll the internet and then just thinking they've got a 10 times worse condition than figuring out exactly what it is. Because there was actually something that was pretty crazy, okay? And I'm going to show you guys something on Twitter in a moment. But before I do get onto that point, helping patients and healthcare workers will be especially beneficial for people in poorer countries where many never get to see a doctor at all. So, there's definitely going to be an AI that is going to be trained on vision and is going to be locally available. Maybe it's going to be like a 10 billion model, really, really specific model that's trained on, certain things like a Dr. GPT. We've already seen things like Dr. Claude, which is of not fine-tuned version. I'm pretty sure, I don't remember exactly what version it was, but basically it was a version of Claude that was, for like doctors, students made it. And then of course we have MedGPT, we also have MedPalm. These things do like 90% on the exams and stuff like that. So I think this, like, some information would be better than none. And being able to talk with an AI that's specifically trained to help you work through your healthcare, one that like understands your age, your height, your weight. Because for example, if you have a health issue right now, and if you were to Google like, okay, my hand turned blue, like that doesn't take into account the fact that you might be a male, you might be 6'5", you might be 39, rather than like it doesn't take into account your age, it doesn't take into account any of these Google searches. So it's like all of that information gets left out. So if you have a personal AI system, or you can input that into an AI system and it can, it's seen millions of different things, it's going to be way more effective, especially if it's automated. And like I said, if it's running locally as well. And this is the crazy thing, okay? So this is a random person on Twitter, probably just saved someone's life. So basically, there was a tweet from this guy, and this guy basically said, I was sitting at my desk all day, and suddenly in the middle of back-to-back Zoom calls, my ankle starts throbbing with pain and swelling up huge, then discoloring. What? How did I badly sprain my ankle on a Zoom call? I can't even walk. That makes no sense. And then this guy, okay, sounds like a blood clot. Go to the ER ASAP. Note, I'm a former 9/11 paramedic. So this guy, former 9/11 paramedic, basically just says, look, I'm lucky I saw this tweet because I'm telling you to go to the ER now. You need to see the ER now. And you might be thinking, what does this have to do with ChatGPT? Well, the thing is, I actually asked ChatGPT. I gave them this tweet. I literally just put this tweet into ChatGPT, and I said, based on the following information, what would be your diagnosis? And you can see ChatGPT said here, given the information and thinking through the possibilities methodically, I would prioritize a deep vein thrombosis as a condition to consider first, especially because it can occur without obvious injury and potentially life-threatening condition that requires immediate medical attention. And it basically talks about why this is the thing and how they need to seek treatment as soon as possible. Now, I just did that with GPT-4, okay? So, like, this is what I'm saying, and GPT-4 got it right, okay? So, what I'm saying here, I'm not saying that you can use GPT-4 every single time to diagnose yourself, but if this guy didn't know exactly what was going on and was recommended to go to the ER, if it wasn't for this guy and he used GPT-4 and then went to the ER, his life would have been saved. So the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is that, this stuff has more applications than you do think. And I would not be surprised if we do get like a localized version of this, some kind of website. Of course, there might be situations where, people are upset because they get falsely misdiagnosed. And I think all we need to get is we need to get a robot that's just better than humans. Like, it's just better than humans to the point where it's more effective. So that is ideally what we do want, because it's really going to change everything. And then of course we do have the mental health stuff, which is what I talked about in another video. Half of all US military veterans who need mental health care don't get it. And an AI agent that's going to well trained in mental health is going to be making therapy much more affordable and easier to get. Now remember, it's going to be an AI agent that not only does tasks for you and stuff like that, it's going to be able to talk to you in natural language. So it's not just going to be a chatbot, It's going to be something that uses, really nice speech and stuff like that. So it's going to sound like a human. It's going to speak quickly. And you're going to think how effective this technology is going to be in a couple of years. So, I mean, it says if you choose to share enough information with a mental health agent, it will understand your life history and your relationships, and it'll be available with you when you need it. And it will never get impatient. It could even, with your permission, monitor your physical responses in responses to your therapy through your smartwatch. Like if your heart starts to race when you're talking about a problem with your boss, it suggests when you should see a human therapist. So, I mean, that kind of stuff is going to be crazy. I wouldn't be surprised. We have things like a Aura Ring, which essentially just measures your sleep. But I wouldn't be surprised if we got some kind of advanced Apple Watch where, it's some kind of AI system that talks to you about your health. And it's like your heart's racing. Is everything okay? Do you need me to call 911? I can see that your health is just going down. Has it been something you started to eat? I can order this for you. Like, I mean, that is going to be just a complete game changer in terms of, the technology aspect and just the healthcare aspect, especially for mental health, just talking through an issue, recommending certain exercises. You'd be surprised at how much information can truly change a person's life once they do have access to it. So, like I said, I think this is why I said, these AI agents are really going to change all of this stuff. And then this is where he talks about, could AI make medical information easier to access for every healthcare worker? So it's definitely really, really interesting. And this is where he talks about, can AI combat antibiotic resistance? And it did, funnily enough, before he wrote this, literally like the next day or next like week, there was like an AI that was able to do that. So we also do talk about education. Education is not something that I did think about that much. And there was also a clip that I do want to show you guys from some people talking at MIT, because it was really, really interesting. They talked about some really, really interesting concepts, because a lot of the times when we think about AI, we think, okay, AI is going to take away everything. It's going to do this, it's going to do that. But I think unless you're like an expert in the field, it's kind of hard to see how those things like all kind of interconnect a bit. So I'm going to show you guys the clip from MIT, and then I'm going to get back to you, because it's really eye-opening on the ways that AI is definitely going to change education. And although some of you might not be in it right now, it's still important to see how it interacts with the technologies in ways that you didn't think about before.
Summarize lots of things, and then we invented encyclopedias. It used to be a good idea to ask them to compute math problems, and then we invented calculators. It used to be a good idea to ask them to translate documents from one language to another, and then we invented Google Translate. So schools have basically faced for decades tools that let people bypass useful cognition. And schools then have to figure out, like, okay, so what of that do we not need to do anymore? Like, what are the kinds of, I don't know, a student was telling me the other day, I guess it was a year ago, that I was like, what are you using ChatGPT for? And they were like, to format LaTeX in my papers. I was like, great, never think about that again. Just like, if a machine can do that for you, that is not useful cognition. But there are other kinds of things, where we're asking students to write, not just to generate a document, but because writing is thinking. And bypassing that process may be bypassing useful cognition. So we're gonna have to go back, math teachers figured out pretty quickly that, like, you can't ban these technologies. Banning calculators was a bad idea. They also figured out that there were times when walling these things off was quite good, to say, like, actually, you should be able to do this without a calculator, because you won't be able to do later kinds of math thinking if you don't have some automaticity with these sorts of skills. So for this part of the lesson, the week, the homework, or whatever, don't use those tools, and then we'll figure out where to bring them in later. That's the most urgent thing that I think school leaders are working on, and I'm sure that there are ways that we could help them think through those kinds of challenges. A big part of that will just be continuing to think of, like, what are interesting ways to have people do useful cognition that can't be bypassed with ChatGPT. If there's any way to figure out how do you do useful cognition, without using Google, without using SparkNotes, without using calculators, all these kinds of things. And then I think the next thing they have to figure out is, like, well, how should their schools change based on, like, what should we be teaching differently? Mitch pointed to one sort of thing, which is that a lot of what effective schools do is they help young people build capacities where we have comparative advantages over computers. That was work that, like, Frank Levy did here in the economics department, David Autor did in the economics department, Richard Murnane over at Harvard said, like, if a computer is good at a thing, then probably, think carefully about whether you want to spend a lot of time teaching humans to do that thing, because they probably can't get a lot of work doing that. However, there's lots of things that computers and AI maybe are not going to be as good at, and we should figure out what those things are and really try to emphasize skill development in those areas. And Mitch gave, I think, a pretty good list of what some of those kinds of things are. The other thing is...
So hopefully that clip helped you out a bit. Then, of course, hopefully if I included it, if I'm able to, of course, we have education. So it says, for decades, I've been excited about all the ways that software would make teachers' job, help students to learn. Of course, it's not going to replace teachers, but it's going to supplement their work, personalizing the work for students and liberating teachers from, paperwork and other boring tasks. Now, I'm not sure if you watched that clip where they talk about, just reducing the cognitive load or just something along them lines. But basically, I find this example really, really cool. He says, for example, few families can pay for a tutor who works one-on-one with a student to supplement their classroom work. If AI agents can capture what makes a tutor effective, they'll unlock this supplemental instruction for everyone who wants it. If a tutoring agent knows that a kid likes Minecraft and Taylor Swift, it will use Minecraft to teach them about calculating the volume of area and shape, and Taylor Swift's lyrics to teach them about storytelling and rhyme schemes. The experience will be far richer with graphics and sound, for example, and more personalized today's text-based tutors. So I do think that that kind of stuff is really creative, and I wouldn't be surprised if this happens because, if an AI agent can, know your personalized interests, it's going to be better and well more equipped than a normal teacher to be able to do that with you. And this is, of course, when I'm talking about personalized tutoring, not like a teacher in the classroom, because I don't think it's going to replace teachers. But yeah, it's definitely going to be very effective. And then he talks about the AI education tools being piloted today are mind-blowing because they are tailored to each individual learner. And the thing is, everyone learns in different ways. And with a personalized AI tutor, that's going to increase your level of education, which increases your level of effectiveness, increasing your productivity, and overall, across the bottom line, a boost for the economy. And then we have productivity. So there's already a lot of competition in the field. Microsoft is making Copilot a part of Word, Excel, Outlook, and other services. Google is doing similar things, Assistant with Bard. These copilots can do a lot, such as turn a written document into a slide deck, answer questions about a spreadsheet in natural language, and summarize email threads while representing each person's point of view. But of course, this is where he talks about having agents. So it's going to be like having one person dedicated to helping you with the various tasks and doing them independently if you want. Because remember, agents can go off on their own and essentially do things if you want them to. And, there's some, later on in the video, I'm going to show you guys some serious questions that we need to ask about agents because it was stuff that I was like, whoa, I didn't think about that. So, yeah, so essentially, agent productivity, it does make you really, really productive. So, for example, if your friend just had surgery, your agent will offer to send flowers and be able to order them for you. So, it's going to be able to go on your apps on Amazon, check out for you, find good flowers, find your messages, see what you guys talked about, and suggest stuff. So, it's going to be really, really crazy. So, if you tell it to catch up with an old college roommate, it's going to work together with their agent to find a time together. And before you arrive, it will remind you, anything about them. So, that's why I said it's going to be crazy, like how effective this is going to make people. And of course, some people will opt not to use them, and I mean that's also going to be like a, I guess you could say maybe like a philosophical question whether or not you want to use AI. And it says, this is another thing as well. So it says already AI can help you pick out a new TV and recommend movies, like I talked about recommendation algorithms before. But likewise, a company that I've invested in, this is Bill Gates, not me, recently launched Picks, which lets you ask questions. So which Robert Redford movies would I like, and where can I watch them, and then makes recommendations based on what you liked in the past. And Spotify has an AI-powered DJ that not only plays songs based on your preferences, but talks to you and can even call you by name. Now, I don't think this stuff is that crazy, but what he does talk about, okay, that is a bit crazy, is that you'll also be able to get news and entertainment that's been tailored to your interests. Curio AI, which creates custom podcasts on any subject you ask about, is a glimpse of what's coming. So I think we might be entering an era where we do get AI generated entertainment. And if you aren't familiar with the concept, it's basically like, I guess you could say, interdimensional cable from Rick and Morty. So if you guys have watched that, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, basically, it's just like every version of every universe that you could ever imagine, you could immediately describe. So for example, in the Rick and Morty TV show, they have a universe, that they want to watch on TV where there's like people as pizzas or something like that. I'm not sure if that's the exact episode, but the point is that anything that you can imagine in your head, you could make into a TV show because you could get an AI agent to use Midjourney for images, make that text to video, and of course you could get soundtracks with AI, soundtracks, you could get voices with 11 Labs. That level of creation is going to be there, and there's going to be systems that are going to be able to do that for you. And AI generated TV shows are something that has been explored on Netflix. So if you aren't familiar with Black Mirror, it's definitely something that you should take a look at because it does have a lot of futuristic stuff there, but it's more realism in terms of what could realistically happen. And I would definitely watch that if you are someone who watches this channel, because it's really good in terms of exploring the kind of issues that we will face that we haven't seen. So what we also want to talk about is, of course, the shock to the tech industry. So essentially, you have to understand that agents are going to be the next platform, just like Android, iOS, and Windows are platform. Agents will be the next platform. And of course, to create any app or service, you're going to basically just tell your agent what you want. We already know that there's one-click websites, there's one one-click web pages. So, having an agent that's able to act as you can just basically tell your agent what you want. It's going to be able to write the code, design the look and feel of the app, create a logo, which they can already do, publish the app to an online store, and OpenAI's launch of GPTs offers like a glimpse of what we're going to be able to see of where non-developers can easily create and share their own assistants. So, I mean, like I said before, it levels the playing field. Of course, there's an advanced area where, you can use APIs and callbacks and, all that kind of stuff, but it still levels the playing field in certain aspects where, you just didn't think of before. So it's definitely something that is, crazy when you really think about the level of innovation and level of products we're really going to be getting. So this is where it says agents will essentially affect how we use software as well as it's written. So rather than searching for certain things, they're going to be better at finding information and summarizing it for you. This is something that we've already seen happen quite a bit. They're going to replace many e-commerce sites because they'll find the best price for you. So rather than searching online for the best shoes, you'll just ask the AI agent to find the best shoes for you, and it's going to do it in like 5 seconds. They're going to replace word processors, spreadsheets, other productivity apps because, businesses that are separate today, search advertising, social networking with advertising, shopping, it's all just going to become one business. So AI agents, definitely are going to, like I said, it's going to change. I think it's going to change a lot, especially if they're really, really effective. And also, what he talks about here is that I don't think a single company will dominate the agent's business. There's going to be many different AI engines available, and of course, like how OpenAI is at the front runner in the race. I think other companies are going to come out and potentially surpass them. And of course, he does talk about how there's going to be an exceptional amount of competition, which will make AI agents very inexpensive. So, of course, we do need to confront a number of questions about this technology. But this is just issues about AI agents technology. So privacy is a big problem. So he says, but who owns the data that you share with your agent, and how do you ensure that it's being used appropriately? No one wants to start getting ads related to something they told their therapist agent, and can law enforcement use your agent as evidence against you? And when will your agent refuse to do something that could be harmful to you or to someone else? And of course, who picks the values that are built into agents? So is an agent going to help you write an essay on something that's controversial? Is it going to help you make a business that, might be slightly unethical? Because we know that some businesses are, I mean, it's just depending on where you stand, you might think they're unethical. For example, companies that, abuse certain policies in terms of exploitation of labor, AI agents going to help you, build that company because they might think that, that I guess you could say ethically it's not something that you should be doing. I mean, is that going to be a thing? Who picks the values that are built into agents? Are there going to be companies out there that allow you to build agents that will just do anything? I mean, there's a whole range of different questions. And of course, there's also this where there's the question of how much your agent should share. For example, is your agent going to say too much information? Maybe you don't want it to say, oh, she's seeing other friends on Tuesday and doesn't want to include you. And if your AI agent helps you write emails for work, it will need to know that it shouldn't use personal information about you or proprietary data from a previous job. So it's definitely something, like I said, that we need to think about in terms of how these agents are deployed, how they're integrated, how they work. And I mean, it's going to be pretty crazy. So this is another one as well. AI agents could affect how we interact with friends and family. Today, you can show someone that you care about them by remembering details about their life. But when they know that your agent is likely to remind you, does it mean the same thing? So, for example, like, how people care about you, like, of course, you remember their birthday, you remember this about them. But if it's just your agent doing all the work, does that, is that still a meaningful relationship? So these are kind of questions and things that we are going to have to face. And then of course we do have this one as well, and I was reading this and I was like, this is really, really true. So in the distant future, agents may even force humans to face profound questions about purpose. So imagine that agents become so good that everyone can have a high quality of life without working nearly as much. And in a future like that, what would people do with their time? Would anyone want to get an education when an agent has all the answers? Can you live in a safe and thriving society where most people have a lot of free time on their hands? So that, I mean, these are really important questions. Can we live in a place where everyone is free to do what they like? Are people just going to be getting up to mischief because people have, money? People have money because of, UBI due to AGI and AI agents. What would people do with their time? Does anyone even want to get an education? Because what's the point? I mean, like I said, a bunch of different questions are coming. We're going to have to answer them. We're going to have to see how things are affected. And like I always said, with any technology change, there's positives, there's negatives. For example, with social media, everyone's more connected, but also you do get off the back end of it, you do get depression, you do get, all of these crazy other mental health issues that do stem from it. You do get like these addiction, dopamine, like all these kind of things, if you know what I'm talking about, like productivity issues, like, all these kind of things that do come about with the rising technology. So it will be interesting to see in the next 5 years, the next 18 to 12 months, how everything does change. And if you do have any questions, would love to see a discussion in the comment section.